What's up, everybody, and welcome to ITG Daily, the show that brings you the hottest in gaming news. I'm Drew Bosley. You can find me on Twitter at ArtisticGamer28, and that's the one, the only, it's Scott Savage. You can find him on Twitter at Savage. Scott, what's happening, man?
Oh, I'm going through rounding up all the Game Pass games and trying to crush them off one by one.
Well, good luck.
Yeah, it's never going to end.
No, dude, that would be one heck of a challenge. Figure how many games we get in a month now on Game Pass. On average, what would you expect?
Probably, well, I want to say 6 or more.
At least, right?
It has to be at least.
At least. I was thinking closer to 10. Maybe 12. I don't know. I'm gonna reach out to Expo. Now I'm curious. Now, all right. I'll find out tomorrow and keep everybody posted. But you guys can always join us live over at twitch.tv/theofficialITG, as well as YouTube, Inside the Game Official. You can't join us live, hit us up later, InsideTheGame.ca, podcast services and TV streaming networks around the globe. Scott, coming up on today's show, developers are leaving their studios. Does this put BioWare in trouble? We get new details on Horizon Forbidden West's open world that's going to feel much more alive, and PlayStation Plus games for December have been leaked. And we've got some good thoughts on those. Dude, let's get into the world of what's happening with BioWare, because right now, Dragon Age 4's creative director has left BioWare. This comes from Jared Moore over at IGN. The senior creative director on Dragon Age 4, Matt Goldman, has left BioWare. He has been the senior creative director on Dragon Age since 2017. As reported by Kotaku, Goldman's departure from BioWare was announced in a recent staff email written by studio general manager Gary McKay. In the email, McKay explains that the creative director has agreed to leave the developer after the two parties mutually agreed to part ways. Quote, "I'm writing to inform you all that Matt Goldman is leaving BioWare," end quote, said McKay in the email. Quote, "We have mutually agreed to part ways and his last day is today," end quote. Matt got fired.
Yeah, there's only one thing that mutually really means. Otherwise, it would be a one-directional kind of decision, wouldn't it?
Absolutely. That is what I'm taking away from this. Quote, "We understand that Matt's departure has an impact on you as well as the game's development," end quote. The email continued. Quote, "Rest assured, our commitment to a high-quality Dragon Age game has not wavered, and we will not ship a game that is not up to BioWare standards," end quote. EA has since confirmed to Kotaku that Goldman has departed the company. Matt Goldman is no longer working at BioWare, the publisher said in a statement. Quote, "He leaves the next Dragon Age game in excellent hands with the team here at the studio who will carry forward our vision for the game," end quote. Dude, this is no surprise. That statement there is just PR blurg. Like, it's
they're saying, don't worry, we're still a company, we're still moving forward, which
is
important to note. The game has not been shelved or anything.
It hasn't, right? But at the same time, what's going on? Because we also saw just last year, Casey Hudson left as well. So what's this doing? Like, what's going on over at BioWare? The creatives are not getting along by the sounds of things. If you brought back Casey Hudson, he leaves. We have lost other members of the BioWare team. We've now lost the creative director here as well. Dude, are you nervous for the future of Dragon Age or even BioWare?
Yeah, I'm hoping that this isn't a signature of something worse. You know, the ship going down or something like that. I always fear the Activision situation, and there's no reason to believe that that's going on right now here.
No.
But just it's not good to see this kind of struggle in the industry, and it seems like it's happened a few times now. So I'm really hoping BioWare doesn't add to the list of companies really in trouble.
Well, it kind of makes you wonder, right? Because he's no longer, as of today, they both mutually stated, like, that's it, it's over. And he left on the day. Normally, if you quit, you kind of give a bit of a heads up. And we'll get into that conversation here in the next story, because that one's an interesting as well. That one sounds like it's parted on mutual agreement. This one was more of a you're out of here and this is what you get and get lost kind of thing for Matt, which is, I think, a story we might hear later on. Obviously not right now, but this also brings up the red flag of, okay, Matt, creative director of Dragon Age, is gone. The executive producer, Mark Dara, left as well not so long ago. And Casey Hudson, who's the general manager of BioWare, has left too. Dude, that's 3 big heads over there, over at BioWare. We saw Anthem just kind of in disarray, right? That just went south, unfortunately.
Yeah.
What could
that
have
was
been
a real problem. And that was indicative of some internal issues too, from what I recall.
Yep. So is this kind of where we now head in towards for BioWare's next game, Dragon Age 4? Mass Effect came out. It did really well as far as numbers wise go, right? The Legendary Edition. But what's this mean now for the future of BioWare? And what's it mean most notably for Dragon Age 4? A lot of people are looking for this title. It's been dormant now. When was Dragon Age 3 last released? Scott, any idea?
Yeah, that was Inquisition, wasn't it? That was, had to be.
I think
2014?
I'm checking it. Yep, 2014. Well done, dude.
Oh, wow.
November 18th, 2014 is when we saw the last Dragon Age game. Like, it's definitely been a few years.
It seems safe to say that this may result in a little bit of a delay.
Oh, absolutely. I guarantee a delay now, right? If they have plans to announce this, so they announced the trailer, gave us a little bit of a peek into the world of Dragon Age 4. But now this might set back the game, maybe another 6 months to a year as they try to replace Matt. What do they do now, right? So it's just kind of one of those things. But let's continue on with people leaving, because Battlefield's head of design is leaving DICE following 2042's release. This one comes from Tom Henderson over at VGC. Fozzie Mazar, DICE's head of design, who looked after the Battlefield and Star Wars Battlefront franchises, had left the company following the release of Battlefield 2042. VGC can reveal. His departure was announced in an email sent to staff this week, seen by VGC, in which he revealed he'd been planning to leave for some time once the studio's latest shooter had been shipped. So this is a lot different than our last story, obviously, Scott. Like, this has been planned, where I think Matt's was just a, hey, you're out, right? So
yeah, hey, you're out, and he goes, you can't fire me, I quit. That seems to be how you achieve the mutual idea, but
kind of, right? But the former King Studio director had served at DICE's head of design since 2019. His role saw him helm the design team of over 80 creative directors, game designers, and more on projects such as Battlefield 2042, Star Wars Battlefront 2, and Battlefield 5. It was... Yeah, that's right. Okay, I was just checking, dude. Quote, it was an absolute pleasure to serve on the best design teams in the galaxy, end quote. He wrote in his email to staff, quote, the incredible design work that you do continues to inspire me every day. Thank you for putting some faith in me. I hope I didn't disappoint, end quote. Dude, this is leaving on very good terms. Why? Because you always want to leave the door open to come back if your next adventure doesn't work. The email continues. Quote, I have been made an offer I couldn't refuse at another company that has been kind enough to wait for me until we have shipped Battlefield 2042. It was super important to me to be here with the team as we achieve this historical milestone. Quote, while Oscar, the studio GM, and myself have been discussing my succession plans for some time, it will be announced in due course. We opt to delay this communication till after the launch to keep the focus, rightfully so, on the game we've been putting a monumental amount of effort on, end quote. Dude, this is just him moving on and stepping up. Yeah,
well, and he had the decency to finish off the project that was ongoing, and I think that's a good decision on his part, because you don't want to cause ripples. Like you said, you want to leave the door open.
Yeah.
And you just, if you have enjoyed working with these people, then there's probably a certain amount of mutual respect. So I'm glad to see that leave in kind of a clean way. I really hope that the Battlefield release doesn't hurt the prospect that he's going into. You know, they waited for that release. I don't know if that works in his benefit, but
well, that's just it. I think that as a designer, right? I think that I think his focus and his role over at DICE has a different outcome on the final product of the game to some degree, right? At the end of the day, the game just isn't really working all that well, man. Like, I was lagging out. I played again, dude. I jumped in again last night. Why am I playing this game still? It's I'm in there solo, and it's just big team battle or whatever, the conquest mode. Man, I hate that mode. I just hate it.
That is the entirety of the Battlefield series.
I know it is, and I just
I
can't
like Gold
stand
Rush too, but
man, I get in and I'm instantly dead, and I don't even know where. And then all these, But as I'm playing last night, I jump into a tank, right, and it starts like chugging, and I'm like, I couldn't. I jumped out of the tank. I continued to chug until I died. Once I respawn back in, then I'm back up and running. I'm like, okay, well, at least the game's working now. But as I'm coming across the battlefield, we're in this like shipping container area zone. Dude, It is stunning and incredible to think of what is going on in that very moment. There are 100 people on screen. They are shooting at everybody. Tanks are here. There's a jet up in the sky. There's a helicopter flying across this way. Like, that is a monumental moment just to sit there and go, man, and it all looks beautiful. There was no lag at that moment, but right. But just to think of the achievement by DICE to put all of that into one game and have it work somewhat, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It's kind of fair to expect some sort of glitching, some sort of bugs. It is a giant project, but no, that excitement of like you realize you're in a Michael Bay movie for a moment and you take a look around. That's what's kept me on Battlefield since I think Modern Combat 2, which was a long time, 15 years ago maybe.
Yeah. Well,
they followed it up with even more, and that's something that I like to see in this game because you have these weird VTOLs and you have all the tanks firing back and forth and different hovercraft. And I just wish there was a little bit more map destruction because I think otherwise they followed it up with that same feeling.
Dude, it was so cool because as I'm standing there and watching, I look up, right? And this jet comes barreling through, blows up a helicopter, and just like kind of went through the dust and the explosion. And I was just, man, like you don't get that in other games, right? Like it is, they achieve that through cinematics in other games. I think it's kind of the highlight, right?
Ace Combat may be the only one that I've seen.
Oh, maybe.
At that.
Yeah. So I don't know. It was a cool moment last night, but yeah, there's definitely some issues. But we'll see what happens here as he moves on to the next project. Where he lands, what is he working on? That's always the biggest question, right? If the company was willing to wait for him to finish up 2042, I think that is fantastic. Congrats to that. Like, you obviously have somebody's very interested if they're willing to wait for you to finish up one project and then bounce you into another one. But dude, here's one project I cannot wait to get my hands on. It's Horizon Forbidden West open world, feels more alive and more real than ever. This comes from Jason over Game Informer. What's going on here is this isn't the first time we've read a Horizon Forbidden West blog post to see that Guerrilla Games has been up to. Not only is Aloy more dynamic and realistic looking in the new chapter, she'll also be exploring an immense map with its fair share of cutting-edge qualities. According to lead living world designer Espen Sogn, the dev team hopes that players will encounter a world that feels more alive and more real than ever. Quote, and knowing that the impressive pedigree of Guerrilla Games, this will likely be the case. Dude, this is very exciting. The latest blog post states designing Horizon Forbidden West sandbox was all about maintaining authenticity. This is primarily reflected in the culture norms of the tribes that Aloy meets. Espen mentions 2 tribes and juxtaposes their customs to showcase the player's positionality in the world at large. Quote, the Orsaram is a social and historical tribe, so their animations are more about shoulder punches and high fives. The Atara, on the other hand, are laid back, so they will often sit down together and be more touchy-feely. End quote. So it's just
this is cool though. They're making highlight of a lot of different cultures going on, and that's what brings the different spices to the map, in my opinion. That's a great thing.
Absolutely. This level of authenticity is also apparent in customization options. Aloy can upgrade her weapons. She can now carry up to 6 in addition to her spear. at the workbench. Scott, what's your take on the workbench scenario? Do you want to constantly go back to a workbench to upgrade stuff? This is a mechanic we see a lot of in games.
Yeah, it seems like it could be annoying to some, but I'm really looking forward to what kind of functionality that brings. We're talking about putting on different pieces of equipment to build your stats up.
Yep.
I'm sure weapons are going to follow the same idea. And that addition of depth, I can jump through some hoops if it means that there's another depth to it.
Yeah, I'm good for that. That's for sure. Yeah, me too. More importantly, senior designer Stephen Limpkin states that any equipable clothing options reflect a tribe's access to certain commodities, while also providing bonuses and resistances. Clothing reflects a unique style, as well as the materials a tribe has access to and knows how to use, Limpkin says. So everything within the world seems like it's going to have a purpose, and it's going to serve as a functionality for one tribe, but not serve the same function from another tribe. Dude, this is really cool.
I just thought of something that could be really great. The Monster Hunter world idea, or just Monster Hunter in general.
Sure.
I hope there's a tribe that destroys these machines and then makes them into armor. Now, that could go too far. If it goes too far and everybody's got an Iron Man suit, that doesn't make sense. But
no, it doesn't.
I like the idea of wearing some cybernetic upgrades. No,
for sure. Hunters from the Nora tend to favor range combat and stealthy hunting. Karja excels at the use of traps and tripwires. The Bosteris Ozaram love fighting up close and personal with a hammer. Dude, like every tribe is just a little bit different than the other one. So it's what playstyle are you in for? Dude, I am more of the stealthy. Like I'm not gonna.
The stealth perked my ears up, but at the same time, the Karja with the traps and tripwires, I think that's gonna have to be me. The satisfaction of laying in wait, just like stealth, but you let a device trip off the fight. I love it.
I want to see how many, can we combine one tribe with another tribe in a sense for their mechanics, right? Or do we have to go, okay, I can only work with the Karja because I only get this weapon, and this weapon. But if I want to go stealthy for this mission, I got to go back to Nora as one of the hunters to get in for this. You know what I mean? Like, are we going to have that division, I guess, within these tribes of if you want this gear, you're only going to go with this tribe. But yet, if you want to get into the traps and the tripwires, then you have to go to the Karja. But can you combine the hunters of Nora and Karja together so I can get in stealthy, use the traps, the tripwires, all that kind of stuff? Because I was a bit of both. I'd hide in the long grass, set up my tripwires, and let them come barreling through it and flip them up, and then I pin them down with another trap, you know what I mean? And all this other. Dude, I can't wait. Probably my most anticipated game right now. It's very cool.
No, I'm excited for this one. If anybody finds a PlayStation 5 that falls off of a truck, because that's about the only way I can get one at the moment.
Absolutely. Let's keep it going with PlayStation, as the PlayStation Plus December lineup has been leaked. This comes from Connor McCarr over at VG247. It looks like PlayStation members are getting to peek at some free gifts early this year, as the December lineup of free games has been leaked via Dead Labs, a site where accurate leaks are often posted. The games that seem to be on their way are, dude, you ready for this? This is a good lineup. Mortal Shell for PS4. Godfall for PS4 and PS5. Sorry to Brad over at Northern Nerdcast, who just picked up Godfall, is now going to get it for nothing with Game Pass. And
he does prefer physical, though.
He does. He's much more of a physical collector. So and lastly is Lego DC Super Villains for PS4. Here's a quick note, though, Scott. Those are 3 games. As of recently with PlayStation Plus, we've been getting games, 3 base games for the consoles, plus VR games. There's no VR mentioned here whatsoever. And I'm curious if they just didn't get that information via Dead Labs, or is that just not going to happen now?
Yeah, that's how long has that been going on for? Because I wonder how long the PlayStation VR library really is.
It's long.
I'm not certain.
It's definitely long. They have a lot there in the tank to kind of bellow into if they want to grab something for us in the world of VR. I think what they're doing, I think it's a smart move that they've been adding in VR. Because if you're already collecting, all you have to do is click the button, you add it to your library, you're all set, ready to go, right? It's not a big deal. And
Yeah.
it can sit there. It doesn't sit there on your hard drive. It just sits there in your library. So you always have access to it. So that way, when you get your next PlayStation VR headset, because you don't own one yet, but you see how PSVR has stepped up its level of functionality, how much more responsive and everything is going to be. The tech is really taken from the first level of PlayStation VR, which I was in at the very beginning, to then jump in now to the second one, where we've seen very little information on it because now I'm starving for more. The only thing we've seen, Scott, I believe, is the controllers, which look super cool, way more ergonomic in the form fitting of your hand. It has analog sticks now, which is definitely missing from the motion controllers.
That's a big deal.
Oh, yeah, what a huge
step. You cannot continue now. I think thumbsticks were necessary 40 years ago.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So when they announced PlayStation VR and you're using the Move controllers, I was like, oh man, really? Like this is how we're gonna do it? But okay.
It's almost like if you had an Oculus and it goes, all right, plug in your Kinect.
Oh, that's for sure. So I'm curious to see, are they done now releasing VR with PlayStation Plus, or are we going to get more? Because people are going to want to build their lineups. That way, those who do get into the second wave of VR on PlayStation will already have something in their games library to have access to try out in VR if they've never done it before. Could be a good move for them to keep that going. And dude, what's going after 6 years of being shut down is PlayStation Home. Dude, you mentioned it the other day. It is now back. This comes from Chris Scullion over at VGC. A fan group has managed to get PlayStation Home up and running again, enabling players to connect online. Destination Home is a nonprofit project that has been trying to resurrect home for a number of years and has an offline version available for download and play on either modded PS3 consoles or emulators. There you go. Dude, welcome back to PlayStation Home. That is hilarious that they even managed to get that up and running. I didn't know anybody was actually asking for this thing.
No, I suppose it is a fond memory for some, but it did not achieve commercial success and just dropped off. So I suspect that's going to happen again, but it might just spur on that idea again. We've seen Microsoft come out with a museum kind of idea, but everybody has their own room in that place. I have to go look up mine.
I looked up mine.
It just gives you something else that's interesting. I thought PlayStation Home at the time was a good idea, but it just didn't take off.
No, yeah, for sure. Right now, it's funny because PlayStation Home now, when I look at it, reminds me of jumping into my home in VR. Because when you jump in, right, you have your own area.
Your Zen garden, in my case.
And that's exactly what it reminds me of. I'm like, this is very much like PlayStation Home. When I was looking at the footage earlier, I'm like, this is funny. This is really funny. But, dude, this is going to wrap up almost the entire show. We have what game coming out today? Because we only have one.
Yes, and that would be Lego Builder's Journey. And that is on the Xbox One, the Series X, and the S.
Dude, I want to check this game out. This game looks cool. I've heard good things about it. I saw it's rated 7.5 on, I think that was Game Informer when I checked that one out. But I've heard good things. I heard it's actually got an emotional story behind this game.
Oh, well, that's interesting. Being called builders, I would have expected to be, stuck to the Lego building, which makes a lot of sense.
It does. So do you remember Lego World?
No.
You didn't see that game? So that was their spin on like an open world kind of, I believe you can meet up with your friends and pile into this big massive Lego thing. I'm not one of the biggest, like TT Games is fantastic at creating these Lego games, and this one for me I think looks a little bit more unique and simplistic. It came out on mobile first, I believe, so now it's moved over to the world of consoles, so I'm anxious to check it out. Will you check this one out, Scott?
Curious. Yeah, if there's enough freedom to the building, because that's a big deal for me, then that might pull me in.
It might pull you in, and hopefully we pulled you in over at InsideTheGame.ca, where you can check us out. You can also hit us up live, twitch.tv/theofficialitg, as well as YouTube at Inside the Game Official. But if not, like I said, InsideTheGame.ca, podcast services and TV streaming networks around the globe. I'm Drew, that's Scott, and we'll see everybody tomorrow, because it's almost Friday. Inside the Game.